Over valley and mountain, river and plain, through wind and storm,
rides Ann of the Airlanes.
Ann Burton has parachuted down to a secret water-covered landing field in the heart of the Florida Everglades, where she finds pilot Jack Baker of Interstate Airlines. She gives him the wavelength of the government radio station that will transmit instructions to Jack as he acts in behalf of the Secret Service in rounding up the members of the illicit diamond syndicate that is known to be smuggling the precious gems from the mines in Africa. Meanwhile, back near the East Coast, in an emergency landing field in a borrowed Aircat speed ship, there waits Ann's Aunt Hattie, Jack's brother Bobby, air hostess Kay Thompson, and radio inspector Art Morrison. They anxiously scan the leaden skies through the downpour of rain for the return of co-pilot Pete Peterson in another Aircat from his trip to find Jack. Only Kay knows that Ann intended to bail out if Jack were found, for the others were taking a much-needed rest when Ann and Pete took off. We look into the cabin of the Aircat as Kay explains. Listen.
So you see, there wasn't much I could do to prevent her going. After all, she was right. We had 3 planes, and we needed all the men to pilot them. You know, in this game, one has to look at all the ifs, and if Pete and Mr. Morrison had gone, we'd have had no one to fly out of here if anything had happened to them. As it is, we still have a pilot and a ship, even if we do happen to be short of gas.
Yeah, but, gee, Kay, I don't see why I couldn't have gone. I guess I could have dropped over just as easy as Ann could, and I know all about parachutes.
Well, just as Kay said, Bobby, we need all the men, and that includes you. After all, you have a mighty fine amateur radio station up in Springfield. We may need you to keep in touch with Jack.
Well, the only thing I'm sorry about is that I didn't tell you right away, Aunt Hattie. But Ann thought you wouldn't want her to go.
Go? Kay Thompson, if that niece of mine hadn't the nerve to jump out of an airship with one of those big umbrellas, if it was necessary to round up a bunch of criminals, I'd have done it myself.
Spoken like a patriot, Miss Jackson. Yeah, but that's quite a risk to take for the Revenue Department.
Revenue Department, nothing. I'd have done it just to show that big person a thing or two. Oh, but I do hope that Ann doesn't get caught.
No, I think she'll be able to find her way out to a road of some kind if she does bail out. Oh, but Pete ought to be getting here. They've had plenty of time to fly over the Everglades and back.
Well, the Everglades are pretty big, Kay, and maybe they haven't been able to spot that big transport.
Yes, and they were only guessing that the transport headed that way. But it could hardly have gone anywhere else and still remain undetected.
Oh, but Mr. Morrison, you say that Mr. Baker has permission to use the air transport. And why would they be afraid to land, well, just anywhere?
Well, Aunt Hattie, you see, Jack and, of course, ourselves are the only ones down here who know that. The crooks haven't been warned, we hope. And everything depends upon them thinking that the transport is still stolen.
But, gosh, Mr. Morrison, won't even the police be told about it? Why, they might arrest or even shoot at Jack if he had to land somewhere and they thought the transport was stolen.
No, Bobby, we can't afford to take any chances of a leak anywhere along the line. So we just let everyone believe that Jack is piloting a stolen aircraft. And by doing that, we also get a pretty fair idea of the number of secret airports this ring has.
Hey, look out of this back window. There's the Aircat.
Oh.
It's Pete. Gee, I wonder if Ann came back with him.
Well, you better keep an eye on him. There's not much wind, but the rain's made a regular bog out of this field, and this ship lands pretty fast.
Oh, Pete will make it all right. He can fly almost as good as Jack, almost.
If they found Mr. Baker, and Ann didn't have nerve enough to jump out to take him that wave number or whatever it is, then I'll make him take me right back and do it myself. Oh, it'd be a thrill. And another thrill more or less won't make much difference after these last couple of days.
Coming in pretty fast. just so he doesn't bog down and nose over.
I don't know how he knows where the wind is. That windsock must have gone in that hurricane.
Oh, that's easy, Kay. He can see the ripples on those pools of water. See him?
That's right, Bubby. You certainly are observant. He's just about to make it.
Oh, if only there's no soft spot there. He's there. Boy, what a splash. But it was 3-point, and he held it that way.
Oh, he splashed that muddy water thing inside that cabin. Oh, I wonder if Ann...
I don't think so, Aunt Hattie. I think I can see right through to the back windows. And it looks like it's clear, unless...
You won't have to wait long. He's practically up here. I'll help him lash the ship down just in case there's another blow.
And I'll help you. I know how to tie knots, and they stay tied, too.
Oh, you get pretty wet, Bobby. Maybe you'd better stay in here.
Now, didn't you and Mr. Morrison both say us men were necessary? Then why worry about a little rain?
Okay, Bobby. There, he stopped. Be with you in a second, Pete. Help you faster.
Yeah, me too, Pete.
Well, Kay, it looks like Ann actually bailed out, as you say. Oh, I only hope that she landed all right and that she got the message to Mr. Baker in time to do some good.
So do I, Aunt Hattie. And I hope she finds her way back here some way. There's so many dangers, like Indians and alligators and, just ever so many things.
Kay, Ann's grandmother, that was my mother, you know, was one of the early settlers in my state. And she fought Indians and drought and famine and just about everything else. And she lived to be 91. So I'm not a bit afraid that Ann will be able to get through a little 2x4 bit of unsettled country and get back 40 or 50 miles.
Oh, Aunt Hattie, you're priceless. I don't know whether you really mean that or if you're just trying to keep up my nerve. But I do think Ann will make it all right.
So on my way back, I got to thinking that atmospheric conditions had cleared up a little. So I got in touch with Interstate.
Yeah, but, gee, Pete, isn't that quite a long ways to pick up their transmitter?
Sure it is, Bobby, but we had the help of a couple of amateurs that relayed our calls both ways.
You know, these amateur radio stations seem to play quite a part in rescue work. Earthquakes, storms, floods. You'll always find one of those ham station boys sitting tight and ready to help out.
Let the radio wait until later, Pete. I'm dying to know about Ann. Did she really bail out? Did you land okay? Did you...
Hey, just one question at a time. Yeah, she bailed out okay, just like a veteran. And I think she landed in a tree, but I gave her my knife so she wouldn't have any trouble cutting herself loose. She dropped about a mile from the plane where we spotted the transport.
Well, just how did you manage to see it, Pete?
Ann happened to see the tail sticking out of an old hangar, or maybe an old barn that they were using for a hangar. If it hadn't been for that, I don't suppose we'd ever have seen it.
But I don't see how you could miss a runway long enough for that big ship to land on, Pete.
That's just it.
Ship to land on, Pete.
That's just it, Bobby. The runway was covered with water, either from the rain or on purpose to camouflage it. But anyhow, a fellow could have flown over it a dozen times and just thought it was another of the little lakes in the neighborhood.
Oh, you don't suppose she'll have any trouble finding her way out after she gives the information to Mr. Baker, do you, Mr. Peterson?
Just make it Pete, ma'am. No, I don't think so. There seems to be a road of some sort near the place.
Well, the real question is whether or not she'll be able to give Jack that wavelength without being seen by Vic or Joe.
Oh, you'll probably think I'm crazy when I say this, but I'm not at all worried about Ann running into that Joe, even if he does call me to it. But that Vic...
But you never told us what Interstate said, Pete.
Well, it seems that I'm not exactly their ambassador of goodwill, and they want Kay and me back there to take out our runs. And Tony Johnson is throwing one fit right after another about this air cat here. Today was the first time he's heard of it since it was stolen, you know.
Gee, that's right. I bet he was sure glad to know it's all right.
He sure was. But he sent me word that he wants to enter the ship in the air races, and that means he has to tune it up. So it looks like it's up to us to get this job back to Springfield in a hurry.
Well, how about Doug's air cat, Pete? We didn't exactly get a permanent lease on that, you know.
Well, here's what I thought we could do. We can gas up both of these jobs. And you and I'll take Aunt Hattie and Bobby back with us. Art can stick around here for a couple of days until Ann makes her way back, or gets some word to you. There's a phone in the house down the road about a half a mile. I saw the pole just when I came in. And the phone company will have all the lines around here working in a few hours.
That suits me, Pete, but what about the gas? Now, where are you going to get that and when?
Well, I radioed the Miami airport to phone the nearest town, that's only 10 miles or so, to send us 500 gallons of aviation gas. It ought to be here before dark.
Well, Mr. Pete, you can take Bobby with you, and Kay. But as for myself, I'm not stirring an inch from this spot until I'm sure that Ann is safe.
And gosh, I don't want to until I know about Jack.
Yeah, but he won't go back to this emergency field, Bobby, and just as soon as he gets a chance, he'll be sending a message over that special frequency. That is, if Ann has managed to get it to him. And you could pick it up on your set. You might even have to relay a message or two.
Oh, gee, that's right. I never thought about that. But you're sure you won't be afraid, will you, Aunt Hattie?
Mr. Morrison's a wonderful flyer, Bobby. Oh, what's that peculiar noise?
It looks like Yeah, it is. It's the gas truck from that little burg. That's what I call real service.
Oh, they're probably used to rush calls in this emergency field, Pete.
Yeah, that's right. I never thought of that. This storm has made me start believing that we're the only people on Earth being cut off from civilization that way. Don't know how we're going to get that gas in the tanks, though, without the rain getting in.
So the man with the truck's probably fueled more ships than you have, Pete. He'll know enough to bring along something to shield the tank.
Come on, Art. We'll give this fella a hand in backing in here. It might be pretty soft.
Packed pretty hard near this windbreak, Pete. I think he can get back in all right.
Hey, you from the gas station. Back in against this one first. It's okay. You won't get stuck. A little more. Easy gets it. Come on back. Just a little more now. There.
Elia, Pete, all gassed up and ready to go. Ready, Bobby?
Shall I finish this sandwich in the cabin, Pete?
You bring it along, Bobby. I've got 4 of them right here.
Mr. Pete, it was very thoughtful of you to have them bring those sandwiches out for the gas.
To tell you the truth, Aunt Hattie, I was nearly starved myself when I called Miami. Well, how about it, Kay? You all set?
I guess so. Let's go, Bobby. And don't forget to radio Interstate just the minute that Ann shows up on.
I'll let you know the minute we hear from her. Happy landings, Pete.
Thanks, Art.
Happy landing.
Good luck.
Well, Mr. Morrison, it looks like we're left on the watch, doesn't it?
Yes, provided Pete makes it off this field with that load of gas. There's a lot of weight for that soggy ground.
They've made it. We might as well get in out of this rain. I feel like I'm soaked to the skin. I wonder if Ann is out in this.
Oh, she's probably hired a car from some native. If she has, she'll be along any minute. Pete told me that the transport was down not over 40 miles from here. That is, in an airline.
I hope she does find a car. Walking 40 miles. Why, it would take a day.
Oh, now you get in, Aunt Hattie. I want to take another look at these lashings. You never can tell when we might get into another storm.
Yes, and you never can tell when it might be unhealthy to climb into that there thing. Just stand where you are, lady. You too, mister. This here rifle is worse than any storm.
Aunt Hattie and Art Morrison held at the point of a rifle. Is this a holdup, or has this threatening stranger some connection with the diamond smuggling ring Morrison is helping to run to earth? Time alone will furnish the answers to these questions, which means that you must be sure to be at your loudspeaker to hear the next episode of Ann of the Airlines.